Over the course of my time on YouTube, I've been suggested a plethora of different pieces of gear to check out. And if I had all of the time and the resources in the world, believe me, I would check out every single piece of gear that you guys suggest. I truly appreciate it. It's actually one of my favorite things about having a YouTube channel, getting exposed to new things and ideas from all of you out there that watch. It's a very symbiotic relationship. I get leads from you guys on things that you think I might enjoy, which in turn leads me to try them and share my experience, and then others who might enjoy those things as well, whether they are pieces of gear or whatever they may be, get to see them and get some feedback on them also. It's a really, really cool thing, and I'm really grateful to be a part of it. Well, there has been one amplifier that has been requested over and over and over again on the channel, and that is the PRS MT15, it's backwards. That is the PRS MT15. The PRS MT15 is a 15-watt all-tube lunchbox style amplifier. It is powered by two either 5881 or 6L6 tubes. The one I have here has 6L6s in it, which is pretty unique. Most of these lunchbox style amps have EL84s in them. We also have count them six total 12AX7 preamp tubes, which is also pretty unique for an amp in this form factor. It features two channels, a clean and a lead, but the clean channel has a switchable boost option. The cleans are advertised as going from spanky, probably one of my favorite adjectives for describing clean tones by the way, all the way to searing and chunky leads. We will test that claim in this video. The MT15 can also be ran in half power 7-watt mode if you need that output volume a little bit more under control. We also have a built-in effects loop and external bias points, something I'm sure your amp tech will appreciate. It comes with a foot switch for switching the amp's channels and a cool little carrying case, although if I'm being honest with you, I had a really hard time getting this amp to fit in the carrying case, but still, pretty neat it has one. And all of this retails for $799 at the time of making this video. Now I know I am way late to the party on this one, but if you humor me, I think I have some insight and an experience and perspective that is a little bit unique to other videos that you may have seen. And before we get started, a massive thank you to 𝗦𝗍𝗘 and PRS for sending this out to me so I can make this video. And you know the deal, if you use the link in the description on any of your gear purchases, it massively helps out this channel, and you also have my eternal gratitude. So to preface this whole thing, those of you that suggested this amplifier to me were absolutely right. This thing is right up my alley, and I actually found this to be a little bit surprising considering I didn't vibe with the PRS Arc on that much, and that is considered by many to be one of the greatest amps of all time. But the MT15 is much different in a few ways, which we will talk about here later in this video, because what I want to do here is not only test the PRS MT15 out, but I want to run it with an actual drummer in a practice space since, let's be real, most of you are probably curious how loud this tiny little amp is and if it can hang with a live band despite its on paper much lower power output. So let's demo this thing and take it to the rehearsal space not only to see how it performs, but how it performs compared to the larger and beefier Archon 50 that I mentioned before, and then for good measure, I want to compare it to something I'm very familiar with, my Engl Powerball. I know this would have been a great opportunity to test the MT100, but 𝗦𝗍𝗘 is actually currently back ordered on them, so apologies on that. But I think this will give us all a good understanding of the differences between the total power output and the loudness of these amplifiers, and the Powerball is more of a benchmark, being a pretty standard 120 watt 6L6 loaded amp. So, oh hey, I'm back. What's up guys, I'm plugged into the MT15 that is running into my Mesa 4x12 cabinet, being mic'd up with an 𝗦𝗐 Electronics Voodoo Ribbon 1 microphone. No one who watches this channel is surprised by this configuration, but if you don't, that's what's going on here. I have a boost going into the front of this amp as well. This is a prototype boost that I am working on. I labeled it with a label maker. That's not what it's gonna look like when it's done. I just did it so that you know what's going on with that boost. We're not gonna engage that right now. It's just there. We'll get to that in a minute. I have a noise gate in the loop of this amplifier because I can, because it has an effects loop. That is not on right now. We're just on the clean channel. Everything is at noon. That's what it sounds like. Surprisingly loud for how loud it's turned up, but let's turn up the treble. Let's turn up the presence. Let's just turn the presence all the way up to like 3 o'clock. Immediately, much better. Let's turn the mids up here, and we can turn this bass down. We get sort of like a Fender sort of thing, like a Fender twin reverb sort of thing. But if we want to add that in, maybe cut some of the mids out, we get more of like a full-bodied sort of clean sound. By the way, I'm using my Deviant Guitars Grimoire. It has an EMG 81X in the bridge and an 85X in the neck. For those of you that are curious, there you go. Let's switch over to the neck pickup. It's a very full, rich sound. You know, surprisingly for a 15-watt amplifier, I mean, we're on the clean channel. Really do clean channels a lot on this channel. That sounds weird. I don't do cleans much on this channel. I'm mostly a metal guy, focused you know, there's clean tones in metal though, too, right? And you might want to hear what this amp sounds like, just clean. Let's pull this boost right here. It's not really like an edge or breakup tone, it just adds a little bit of grittiness. I prefer it this way, if I'm being honest with you, but it just adds a little bit of grittiness to it. Again, you know, for a channel that claims to go from like sparkling crystal cleans, it makes sense that they would have this boost on the treble knob, because this is more of like the clean that you would expect out of a high gain amplifier. The clean I would expect out of a high gain amplifier at least. The volume is not up very much either, and it is pretty loud. You can see by this meter up here. I got this out just so that way we have some sort of guideline for when we go into the practice room scenario with the drummer. 112 is loud, right next to my ears. Let's go over to the lead channel. That's what I'm doing here. I'm a metalhead. You're probably a metalhead too. So enough with the cleans. Everything at noon. You can hear we have some noise, so I'm gonna engage the gate. There we go. No more noise. It's a little bit dark, a little bit muddy. Let's see if we can dial it in. We do have this presence control. Now, I might be crazy, maybe I'm hearing things, but it sounds like when we turn the presence control up, we actually get some depth also. Let me know if you guys are hearing that down in the comments, but that's sort of what I'm hearing. Dial this a little bit. So, few observations here. It does not have the same amount of low end that I would expect out of a much larger amplifier. That seems obvious to me, but if that wasn't obvious to you, now you know. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have a lot of low end though, especially for how big this is and it being a 15-watt amplifier. It actually has quite a bit. I think it punches well above its weight, literally. We don't have this very loud either. Let's turn it up. I bet we actually get some more low end as we turn it up. The bass is very interesting to me, and I think the bass is something that like deserves to be talked about a little bit with it being such a small amplifier. It has a really good amount of low end for its size, and it sits in a very interesting place. The bass isn't very like wompy. That's what I refer to it as, where it's like wob, wob, wob. I prefer amplifiers that have depth control, specifically because the depth usually gives you like a deep, powerful low end that's not flubby sounding, like wob, wob, wob. And the bass control usually does, so like what I'll do is I'll turn the depth up and turn the bass down and sort of get some power, get some like really oomph out of the low end. The bass on this sits somewhere in between those two. So you can turn the bass up quite a bit without it sounding like muddy and annoying, I guess I would say, but it's not quite as deep as like a much larger amplifier, especially with the depth control. And I think the aggression also sounds really good. It has this very like mean, throaty sound. Again, is a little bit surprising to me. Now, my only other experience using a PRS amplifier was the PRS Archon 50, which we will use later in the video, and I didn't really vibe with that amplifier too much. That amplifier was just, it's fine, it sounded good. It actually has a depth control, which is one of the things that I said I would like to have on this amplifier, but I don't know, man, just the voicing was very like dry and plain sounding, I guess, to me. Vanilla. Vanilla is the word that I would use to describe that amplifier. This doesn't sound like that. This sounds very inspiring. I want to mess with the gain here really quick, and I just want to see what it sounds like at full gain. Very usable gain range. Let's turn this down. Let's see if we get it into that vintage territory like they claimed in the marketing material. That's not it. We'll turn the bass down to about there, and then the mids up and the treble up a little bit. It does that really well. It's very pleasing sounding. Like the gain character, it's not too saturated, it's not too compressed, it's just good. It just has a very good versatility and just sits really well. Like the gain range is usable all the way throughout. Let's go back like this and let's engage the boost and see if we can get a maybe more tight and articulate sort of sound out of the high gain. Yeah, that just did a really good job of like doing the things that the amp already does. It just emphasized a little bit tighter, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more throaty. We did lose a little bit too much low end for my taste though, so let's see if we can add that back in. Maybe we'll add some low end in on the pedal. That's an extremely inspiring tone. Surprising for the size of the amplifier. Look, I'm not even at 9 o'clock on the volume here. It's so loud. I don't think this thing's gonna have any problem keeping up with the drummer. Let me turn this up just past 9 o'clock and let's see how loud we get on the decibel meter. That is so loud. I don't need to go much past that for the sake of my own eardrums. You can see from the decibel meter here, it's super loud. We will see how that translates when we get into the rehearsal situation. But so far, I'm just like so impressed with this amplifier, especially coming from my skepticism that I had from playing the Archon 50 watt amplifier. The only thing left for us to do is to go take it to the rehearsal space and plug it in and see how it hangs with the big boy amps. Let's do it. Okay, so I am on my way to the rehearsal space. Let me show you what I have going on here. We have the MT15, we have the PRS Archon 50, and then I'm taking the Engl Powerball. I've been vibing with this amp a lot lately, so that's why I'm taking this one. So we have 15 watts, 50 watts, 120 watts. Guitar, that's it. Let's go. Okay, I just pulled up. I'm just waiting for Duncan. Very excited to check this amp out, dude. I'm really impressed with it so far, and my gut instinct tells me that it's gonna keep up with the drum set, no problem. But, you know, don't count your chickens before they hatch, or whatever thing an old wise person would say. What I'm saying is we actually gotta go in there and test it out and see for ourselves. Can a 15 watt amp hang? Yeah, buddy. Hey, what's going on? What's up, man? What's up, man?
What's up, man? Fuck that, man.
Good, dude.
I miss you, man.
I know, I miss you too. I'm glad to see you. I got it on film too, the reunion. Okay, this is where I had the master channel. I could have pushed it more, but it was getting squishy around here, like in the mids especially. But I kind of compensated for that with the treble here a little bit, and I turned the presence up as well. The presence almost all the way up. At this end, it was just like noise, so I just rolled it back a little bit. Once I turned the treble up, it opened up quite a bit. And also for reference, this is where I had the Archon's volume set. So that is the lead channel volume right there. Pretty high. And then the master volume right here, also pretty high, surprisingly. For an amp that is more than double the wattage, I actually had to run this one a little bit louder. Kind of weird. I know these are hard to see because it's all mirrored. The low lead volume, just a little past noon, and the master volume, like 10 o'clock. And this was easily the loudest and most articulate. Here's where I have the depth and presence, if you were curious about those. Presence, depth. So the test, I want to get this out while it's fresh in my mind. At first, I plugged in the MT15 first, and I should have gone with the Powerball first, since I'm more familiar with it, especially like in a band rehearsal sort of scenario. The MT15, the first time I played through it, I had it just set up the way that I had it set up in my room at home, and it was a little bit squishy, and it was like the louder I was turning it up, I wasn't really getting more volume out of it per se. Like, it was definitely pushing the mids more, but it was just like, it was getting like squishier. I just thought, okay, this is like all, I'm hitting the headroom. It makes sense. This is a 15 watt amp. You know, that's about what I'm gonna get out of it. And that was about half volume. I was trying to overwhelm the drummer a little bit because let's be honest, you're a guitar player. You play louder than everybody else in the room. I know you. I am you. I get it. So, you know, in order to give like a realistic representation and expectation for another guitar player, I wanted to try and overwhelm the drummer. Thought the 50 watt would be a lot louder by comparison. That doesn't mean that it wasn't loud, it just, by comparison to the MT15, I thought it would be much louder. The Powerball, more than enough volume. I mean, you saw where I had the master volume and the lead channel volume. I had tons of headroom. It wasn't squishy at all. It was really clear and articulate. And then I went back to the MT15. And this is where it gets interesting. I turned up the presence more and I turned up the treble more, and the whole tonal balance shifted quite a bit. Like, it was very noticeable. It's almost like it went click, and all of a sudden, what I thought was really squishy and kind of like mid, that sound sort of went away. And then it actually sounded not as loud as the Powerball, definitely not as much low end. I would say maybe like 70 to 80% of the same amount of low end as the Powerball, but it's a 15 watt amplifier. I mean, it's a tiny little amplifier, it's 15 watts. I guess what I'm saying is overall, I'm very, very impressed with how loud the MT15 got in the practice space. But a 120 watt amplifier definitely gives you the headroom, the extra volume that you might want, especially if you're one of those dudes who likes to drown out everyone else in the room. I mean, let's be realistic. You probably know who you are. Oh, this person has a learning to drive stick shift on their car. Is that why you're driving so slow? Wow, they're driving really, really slow. Anyways, I hope this experiment helps you out. I hope that I can sort of answer that question, like, how much amplifier do you need? But just so we're clear and we're all on the same page, 15 watt amplifier loud, 120 watt amplifier really loud. I hope that clears things up. Thanks for watching, guys.